So, hi there. My name is Manda Tong, and this is my senior capstone project proposal presentation with the theme nostalgia and its place in video games. So, a little bit about me. I graduated from my high school back in 2009, received my first bachelor's degree in English from UH Manoa in 2014, and I'm currently working towards my second bachelor's degree in creative media and a concentration in video game design and development. For this presentation, I'll walk through my thesis statement, the objective of my research I conducted this semester, my plans for the senior capstone project, and the significance of my planned project. With nostalgia being the topic of my research paper, I wanted to bring what I learned and make it the core and heart of my project. So my thesis statement for my paper was that video games allow players to relive the past, whether it is through gameplay, stories of the game, when they played it, and the emotions they felt during the moment. The objective of my research was to analyze how nostalgia connects players to the characters they control and meet in video games and how developers create the characters and worlds to captivate their audience. I learned about nostalgia in general and how studies have expanded it to different variations, such as personal nostalgia, which focuses on how you were in the past, historical nostalgia, which is how something was in the past and how it's remembered, and anticipatorial nostalgia, which has people constantly thinking about a possible future, but unable to live in the present because of it. Using this knowledge, I want to explore ways to implement these design choices in my senior project based on the research from the different articles that I read, as well as the game analysis from the Last of Us series, Final Fantasy X, and Legend Breath of the Wild that I conducted. My plans for my senior capstone project are to create and complete a narrative design document and create three playable levels in a 3D platformer type of game. This will allow me to utilize what I learned in my research about narrative design, character development, and world building to bring life to my own game. My planned project will not be as large as the games I analyzed, but I want to take inspiration from them, such as the main character's backstory being unveiled to the player bit by bit, having objects tell their own stories, and have the world come to life through these decisions. The significance of my project is to further explore game design as a whole. Telling a story through an immersive experience like a video game allows player to feel more connected to the world and the characters in ways other media may not allow, since you as the player are controlling their actions and movements. I've created 2D games using Unity before, like the Endless Runner game and a 2D platformer, but I wanted to shift to using Unreal Engine for this project and create this project in the 3D space and go through the design process with this new engine. I want to use this time and opportunity to apply my research to create an immersive narrative game that will put the player in the shoes of the main character and build the world around them and their story. So my target audience would be video game players who are interested in narrative-driven games. With the rise of the genre of the walking simulators or walking sims, there's little to no combat gameplay and generally more exploration, and I wanted to lean into that subset of audience for this game. Just with the content of the game, I would place the audience to be 13 plus, as the narrative deals with death and war, amongst other things. The video game industry has no shortage of stories that people can connect with, and with the advent of the walking sim genre from the early 2010s, games such as Journey, What Remains of Edith Finch, and Firewatch are just some examples that rely heavily on character development and narrative storytelling. Again, these games have little to no combat that can make playing video games more accessible to people who may want to enjoy an interactive story. So while my project doesn't necessarily solve a problem in the gaming landscapes, it allows more accessibility to opening up an avenue to players for that want to jump into video games. Since Unreal Engine will be new to me, I will start diving into the tutorials first during the break between the semesters, as well as start working on the narrative design document. The first weeks will have me finalize the narrative design document, sketch out the first three levels, and either start creating the art assets for the games or find assets for the games that fit. And I'll be documenting this process along from the start to the end. Weeks 4 to 12 will be the bulk of translating the sketch from Unreal or to into Unreal Engine and programming the character to interact with the levels. As well as during these weeks, I'll also be working on adding the dialogue and the text. Depending on the need, I'll also be adding any art or assets. And my plan is to split the weeks to create one level every 3 or so weeks. The final weeks will be focused on cleaning up the 3 levels by playtesting and fixing any bugs that arise. My deliverable will be 3 playable levels that bring together the narrative, have dialogue, movement, and interaction with the objects that are part of the narrative. So I started creating this game in Unity using 2D, um, and made several levels for path classes. But I want to switch it to 3D to fully realize my vision that I have in my head for this game. Again, using storyboards that I've used in past classes is an example of the storyboard is an example that will help guide the story along to hit the player focused moments. And here are some sketches of the entrance of the first level and how I wanted to frame it. Next to it is a rough sketch of what appears when the main character picks up an object and reminisces about its significance. And depending on the item and how the main character feels about it, I wanted to give the option to either set it back down or have the player toss it to give that kind of like interaction with it as well. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions?